All right. Welcome to Sunday, October 12th, NFL Week 6. And we're going to get started with the Broncos versus the Jets. That is the early game. And that is right around the corner, as you can see right here. The opening odds, let me pull my notes up, are minus 280. You're going to be seeing these pretty much throughout the video. It is accurate up to the last few minutes. And so input all this data, went through all the odds, breakdowns, and all that. But this is just a video. We're breaking down the odds. Then we're going from game to game. But yeah, we're going to start with the early game, Denver Broncos versus the New York Jets. Opening odds minus 280, plus 230 for the Jets, minus 360 for the Broncos, plus 290 for the Jets. That is currently minus 360 and plus 290 are currently the current odds. And I'm going to show you where they went from the opening to the current odds, how they got to this point. But Tuesday, October 7th, this is just an example of what I do on the Patreon. Minus 390 for the Broncos, up from minus 280 from the opening, up in the negative direction, that is, in the favorite direction. Sorry about that. And minus 360 is what it's on currently. Now, the minus 390 was at 92% of the betting, 71% of the money. Then it went up on Wednesday, 10/8, October 8th, minus 400 for the Broncos, was at 92% betting, 73% money. Went up on the money, went up on the betting. Well, betting stayed the same, that is. Went up on the odds, that is. And I'm going to show you where the money line is currently. It is minus 360 plus 290 at, oh, hold on, went too far. Hold on. At, once again, 92% of the betting, 86% of the money. 86% of the money. So the odds have decreased for the Broncos as of early in the week, but they increased from the opening. And the opening odds are always the most telling. Now, the spread looks like this. You scroll back up. All right. 7-point. Go back up again. All right. 7-point favorites are the Broncos currently at minus 110 cost. 7-point underdogs are the Jets at minus 110 cost. They opened at 6.5-point favorites. The Broncos did at minus 115 cost. Now, the spread went from 7 to 7 on Tuesday the 7th, at 34% betting, 77% money. 66% betting went in favor of the Jets at 23% money. Now, spread odds movements on Wednesday, 10/8. The cost stayed the same, that is. It stayed the same from Tuesday. Same as the number 7 touchdown favorites, touchdown and extra point favorites for the Broncos. 40% of the betting this time, 75% of the money this time in favor of the Broncos. Now, it is still at 7, but the cost changed from minus 118 to minus 110. By the way, these are early. The current ones are the ones early this morning. If you were literally just about within an hour ago. Minus 104 here for the Jets at 25% of the money, 60% of the betting. So a lot of people expecting the Jets to cover that spread, to not lose by more than 7, but not lose by 7 or more, that is. All right, that is 61% in favor of the Broncos and 53% of the money in favor of the Broncos. So a lot of people have pretty much given pretty much headway to the Jets in this game, and their cost went down. Their cost went down in the negative direction from the Broncos is minus 118 to minus 110 even for both teams now on the spread, that is. When they do that, that is an indicator that the underdog could get it only if the cost stays the same or higher for that underdog. Just remember that. Total currently is at, go down a little bit, is at 43.5 minus 110 cost. 43.5 minus 110 cost for the Jets. Let me scroll down. Scroll down here. All right. Minus 110 even here. Minus 110 even here. 44.5 points is what it was on Tuesday, October 7th. And that was at 44% betting in favor of the over, 52% of the money in favor of the over. On Wednesday, it was 43.5, minus 112 for the over, minus 108 for the under. 45% betting in favor of the over, 56% of the money in favor of the over, and the cost went up for the over when the over went up. But currently, it is at 74% money. The over is, and the betting is right at 50-50 for the over-under. Now, if you look at the current odds, they opened at 42.5 minus 110 even. It is now 43.5 minus 110 even. It went back down to even when they went up to 74%. They went up to 74%. Looks like that could hold, especially now. If you see the odds go down as you did here from Wednesday, minus 112, the total went down. Normally they're trying to entice you to go with that under. More people are probably expecting this game to go under. Well, they were earlier in the week. Now they're expecting it to go over, and the total went over. Well, it decreased from 44.5 to 43.5. That is, people expecting this to go over now. The more they decrease those odds, do not fall for that trap. Look out for the under if that minus 110 holds up. Only if the minus 110 holds up. But let's go to the next one. LA Rams versus, goodness, let me go back up. All right, LA Rams versus Baltimore right here. Plus 195 opening, minus 238 opening for Baltimore. Minus 375 currently. Plus 310 for Baltimore. More than likely Lamar Jackson won't play. 7-point favorites are the Rams at minus 115 cost. 7-point underdogs are the Ravens at minus 105 cost. Over under looks like this: 44.5 over, 44.5 under. Minus 112 to minus 108 is what it's on currently, and that dropped significantly from a 48.5 total at opening. 48.5 total at opening. So it went down. More than likely Baltimore's starting quarterback will not play in this game, which is why the Rams odds went through the roof, more than likely. But here we go. 97% are now in favor of the Rams at that minus 375. That was what it was on Tuesday. Wednesday it was minus 370 at still 97%. Currently, it is at negative 375, minus 375. Favorites are the Rams at 90% of the betting, 95% of the money. So the money is still 95 and higher, pretty much all week on the Rams, and their cost reflect that. But it's about, in these kind of games, it's about what they do with the underdog. How do those odds change? So currently it is on plus 310. Wednesday it was on plus 295. And on Tuesday it was on plus 300. Wednesday it was on plus 295. Currently it is on plus 310 at only 5%. So if you see those odds continue to increase for Baltimore, Baltimore could be a dangerous pick in this game as far as picking them to lose. Picking them to win, they could be favorable, just the way these odds are going and the way they expect you to bet based off the circumstances for that team, especially at the quarterback position. 7.5 point favorites they are currently. 7.5. Wait, hold on. Tuesday and Wednesday they were 7 point. Okay, currently they're 7-point favorites. The Rams are at minus 115 cost, minus 105 going with Baltimore. Now, Tuesday and Wednesday, they were 7.5 point favorites, minus 105 cost. 57% of the money going with the Rams on Tuesday, 61% of the money going with the Rams on Wednesday. And currently, they are 7.7 point favorites, that is, touchdown to extra point favorites. 73% betting going in favor of the Rams and 85% of the money in favor of the Rams. So they expect that Rams to pretty much dominate that game. As I said before, Rams could win this game, but they are a dangerous pick. They are a dangerous pick in this one. The way these odds are moving and the circumstances of each team and the way people are betting and pretty much the season Baltimore has had not living up to expectation. Over under was at 44.5 on Tuesday and Wednesday, 10-7 and 10-8. At 79% money, 79% money in favor of the overs. And it was pretty much even both days. Currently, it is 73 betting as it was earlier in the week and 74% money. So the money slightly decreased for the over. Let's see where they are currently. 44.5 minus 112 cost going over. Looks like that over could take it in this one. Let's go to the next game between, so let me scroll down. All right, Dallas versus Carolina. All right, minus 120 opening for Dallas, plus 100 for Carolina. Currently, it is minus 158 for Dallas, plus 134 for Carolina. All right, spread. Okay, we'll just focus on the ML. We'll just focus on the ML right now. Minus 198 for Dallas, minus 176 for Dallas on Tuesday and Wednesday respectively. 98% both days of the money going in favor of the Cowboys. 98%. And let's see where the money is going currently. So 176 went from 98%. I'm pretty sure that has decreased since then. All right, 95% now, and 89% of the betting going in favor of Dallas. All right, and that is at the minus 158 and plus 134 for Carolina. Now, that is a significant difference from the openings. Went from minus 120, minus 198 on Tuesday. Now they're back down to minus 158. Minus 176, now they're back down to minus 158 and plus 134 there for the Carolina Panthers. If you see Carolina continue to increase in odds at all, if they continue to increase, they head toward 138, plus 140, plus 142, Carolina may be a decent pick in this game. Carolina could be a decent pick in this game. But as it currently stands with Dallas being such a heavy favorite, if you see Dallas's odds increase in their negative direction, negative 160, negative 170, minus 175, maybe not that high, but it might get there, go with Dallas in that instance. Watch what they do with those odds up until game time. And that'll determine who will win this game, who is going to increase the most while maintaining those splits, especially on the money line. Currently, the spread is at 3 points favoring Dallas, minus 110 cost. 3-point underdogs of Carolina, minus 110 cost. Cowboys open at 1.5 point favorites at minus 108 cost, minus 112 going with Carolina as 1.5 point underdogs on the opening. Now, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3.5 point favorites. 3.5 point favorites are the Cowboys both days. 90% of the money on Tuesday at minus 108 cost. 76% of the money at minus 104 cost. I'm going with the Cowboys. Their cost decreased when their money decreased. Now let me scroll down. Now, if, as you can see right here, 76% of the money, now they're only getting 48% of the money. Carolina's actually leading in the money on the spread. Carolina's actually leading in the money on the spread, and as you can see, the spread is now minus 110, increased for the Cowboys from Wednesday. Now, in that instance, people expecting Carolina, people are more than likely going to place money on the money line for Carolina as well. So, if that is the case, it would be decent to go with Carolina across the board, but the way they're moving the spread gives an indication that Dallas could win this game and take that spread. The way they're moving those odds, especially from Wednesday to Sunday. 48% currently at a higher cost. So they're decreasing in the money, and they're decreasing in they increased in the betting. Okay. Decreased significantly on the money, and their cost increased on the spread. This game, you have to monitor the spread more than the money line, and that'll be the ultimate determiner on who's going to win. Dallas looks decent across the board, though, as it currently stands. Watch how those odds adjust. Now, over under on Tuesday and Wednesday, 49.5 points, 54 of the money, 54% of the money on Tuesday. Wednesday, 55% of the money. Currently, over, under, 42.5 on the betting, 69% on the money. So the over has gotten a significantly higher amount of money, as the total had decreased by a point to 48.5 at minus 110 cost. Opened at 46.5 at minus 110 cost. So it did increase significantly, 3 points. Then it went down again by a point. Let me go back up. Then it went down again by a point. With that, they're getting so much more money now, over 69% of the money. And if that over maintains that 48.5 at that same cost, minus 110, even, pretty much, look out for that over, in this one. Look out for that over. Watch how those costs adjust, because those costs could change again, and more than likely will change again. In that instance, if you're going to look out for the over, the over has to be higher than the under. It has to be higher than the under, especially since they're decreasing the amount but increasing the cost. Think like a bookie. You would make more money increasing that amount, especially with a significantly higher over percentage of money split than it was midweek, earlier in the week. But let's go to the next game. All right, Arizona versus Indianapolis. Minus 122 for Arizona, plus 102 for Indiana, plus 385 for Arizona, minus 500 for Indiana. That is currently on the money line. And let's go over the odds from Tuesday and Wednesday. 2% of the money and 1% of the money going in Arizona's favor. 98% and 99%. Indiana's money line has gone through the roof. But you always want to be aware of home favorites. Always be aware of a home favorite in this instance. Always be aware of a home favorite. 91% and 93% currently at minus 500 and plus 385. Now, the spread. Beware of a home favorite, but the home could take it the way they're moving these odds like this. They have decreased from 99 to 91% of the money the Colts have. But beware of home favorites, but the home favorite could definitely take it in this one. Spread. 9.5 point favorites are the Colts currently at minus 115 cost, minus 105 going with the Cardinals, the cost that is. But Arizona started as 1.5 point favorites at minus 110 cost. Currently, well, we'll start with the movement from Tuesday to Wednesday to now. Tuesday the 7th, 6.5 point favorites were the Colts at minus 115 cost, minus 105 going with the Colts. 12% of the money and 88% of the money. 12% of the money going with the Cardinals, 88% of the money going with the Colts. 6.5 point favorites were the Colts at minus 110 even cost on Wednesday. But the money went down, so did the betting went down for the Colts. And the cost increased for the Colts. And the costs have increased now to minus 115. But let's see where the splits are currently for the Colts in this one. All right, 68% and 68%. So they have decreased significantly, while the cost for the Colts has increased. Colts could take this one across the board, only if they stay high on the money and high on they're at minus 500 on the money line, and odds are now at minus 115 on the spread. Now, total odds movements, 10-7, 10-8. 47.5 points each day, minus 105 cost for the over, minus 115 for the under each day. 42% of the money going with the over, and 53% of the money going with the over on Wednesday. 42 on Tuesday, 53 on Wednesday. Now let's see where the costs have changed for each team respectively. Now, all right, sorry about that. Over 46.5 points, minus 110 cost going over. 46.5 minus 110 cost going under. And let me bring this one down. All right, 72% going over the 46.5 and went down by a point. 45% going over. Currently that is. Minus 110 cost even. It is increased for the over, and so has the over percentage. Looks like the over could take it in this one, especially if they don't decrease it too much. If they start decreasing it too much, going down to 45 and a half, somewhere there, you might want to consider the under in that instance. As it currently stands, the over could take it. Let's go to the next one. All right, Seattle versus Jacksonville. All right, Seattle opening money line plus 102, minus 122 for Jacksonville, minus 110 cost. Minus 110 currently on the money line for Seattle. Jaguars minus 106. Seattle. Excuse. Sorry about that. Money line. Tuesday 10-7, Wednesday 10-8. Minus 102 cost for Seattle. Jacksonville minus 116. Plus 100 for Seattle on Wednesday. Minus 118 for Jacksonville. Now, that has since evened out. It is a pick'em game currently. Minus 110 to minus 106. All right. 83% of the money going with Seattle. 87% of the money going with Seattle on the money line Tuesday and Wednesday. Let's see where they are now. 71% in favor of Seattle on the money, and 56% in favor of Seattle currently. So they have decreased a decent amount on the money, especially from Wednesday, 87 to 71. But their cost has evened out. The cost has evened out on the money line. Minus 110 for Seattle, Jacksonville minus 106. That's a toss-up pick'em game. Now, with that 87% turning into 71% on the money, that is, and Seattle's cost has gone up, Seattle could take this one on the road in Jacksonville. But in order for Jacksonville to win this game, they're going to have to gain that advantage in the negative direction in any capacity. It can't be less than, like currently is minus 110 Seattle, minus 106 Jacksonville. That has to flip or do better while their money percentage increases here. But the spread, Tuesday there were no splits available, so we're going to skip that. Wednesday, 1.5 point favorites are the Jaguars. 80% of the money in favor of Seattle, 20% in favor of Jacksonville. And let's see where they are currently. 1.5 point favorites is Seattle now. Minus 102 cost going with Seattle, minus 120 going with Jacksonville. They opened at 1.5 point favorites for Jacksonville at minus 108 cost, minus 112 as a dog opening for the Seahawks. Now, 80% of the money currently, Wednesday, was for Seattle on the spread. Let's see where they are now. 74%, 6% difference. 6% difference, but the cost is what you need to focus on. Seattle had that minus 115, but they are now a favorite. So that changes things a little bit. It changes how you monetize this. Minus 102 going with Seattle currently, and they're getting 74% of the money. But that has consistently decreased. Consistently been decreasing. Minus 102 going here. Now, 60%. 77% went to 60%. But the cost hasn't really changed for the cost on these spreads, that is. Because when you flip that, now the dog is the favorite. The favorite is the dog now. Whenever you flip that, and the favorite is now the road team, you have to look at the home team as where the money is going for them. They're not getting a major amount of money, and they're not getting a major amount of cost on these splits. So look out for Seattle in this one on the road, and Jacksonville has a ton of momentum. So watch where the sharps go in late. They're probably going to bet heavily on Jacksonville. But look out for Seattle in this one. Over under. By the way, these are early odds. My real picks on the Patreon may be a little different. Over under. 48% in favor of the over. 76% in favor of the over. Tuesday and Wednesday, 46.5 points and minus 110 cost on Tuesday. 46.5 points minus 105 cost on Wednesday for the over. 81% and 82% respectively has decreased to 48% and now 76% really. 76% of the money on Sunday. This is early Sunday. Now, the cost has remained the same for over and the under pretty much all week. Minus 105 going with the over. Under is getting minus 115 and is getting less of the money at that minus 115. Over, under, 46.5 points. Opening, minus 110 even cost. So we have increased on the over, on the total that is, by a point. And the cost has decreased for the over has stayed the same from Wednesday, that is, minus 105, minus 105. Minus 110 is what it changed from on the opening and on Tuesday. So with them going down to 76% of the money and the cost has decreased, then those minus 105 just hit more so than the minus 115s. And the way they're moving those odds, the over is getting enough to cover that minus 115 cost. And it increased. If it decreased, you have to look at the other way. But it looks like the over could take it in this one. But let's go to the next game. All right, Chargers versus Dolphins. Minus 122 opening money line for the Chargers. Plus 102 for the Dolphins. Minus 194 currently for the Chargers. Plus 162 currently for the Dolphins. Tuesday and Wednesday. Chargers were at minus 240 and minus 220 for the Chargers on Wednesday. 97 and 95% of the money respectively. They have significantly dropped to minus 194 to plus 162 for Miami. So Miami has increased, but let's see where the splits are currently for the Chargers and Dolphins. 92% of the money going in favor of the Chargers currently, and 89% of the betting going in their favor with a lower money line. But the percentage decreased. Indicating that you might want to look at Miami for this one. You might want to look out for Miami at home against the Chargers. A lot of people putting money on the Chargers still, over 90%, and it's going to remain that way even when the sharps go in. They're going to put heavy money on the Chargers, but that significant drop in cost could prove deadly if you go with the Chargers in this one. Spread looks like this. Currently is 3.5 points, minus 114 cost in favor of the Chargers. 3.5 points, minus 106 cost in favor of Miami. They started out as 1.5 point favorites, the Chargers did, minus 110 even cost on the spread. Currently it is 4.5 points favoring, well, Tuesday and Wednesday, it is 4.5 points favoring the Chargers. 49% of the money on Tuesday, 67% of the money on Wednesday. And that's a significant difference. Cost went from minus 118 to minus 115 to currently minus 114 in favor of the Chargers. But what you need to look out for is the cost of the Miami Dolphins. Their cost has continued to do what? Increase on their money line and their spread. Increase in their respective directions, that is, in their respective directions. What that means, well, let's see where the percentages are, the splits are for the Chargers. All right, 63%, 41% of the money currently. Miami is getting a ton of money currently on the spread. So people expecting Miami to the Chargers to not cover that spread. And that has changed significantly. 67% of the money going in favor of them on Wednesday, 49% on Tuesday, has dropped to 41% currently. Now, what you need to look out for is the cost, and their cost continues to increase. As long as Miami continues to go, they went from minus 104 to minus 105 to now minus 106. If they go to minus 108 or even stay the same, look out for Miami on the spread. Only in that instance. Now, the total on Tuesday and Wednesday was 43.5 points, minus 120 costs on Tuesday going over, minus 112 costs going over on Wednesday. 34% of the money on Tuesday going over, 38% of the money going over on Wednesday. Now let's scroll down. 62% currently in favor of the over, so basically it is flipped. 55% going in favor of that over. And more than likely, and you see that 43.5 has maintained it, but this minus 112 cost is a huge indicator of what's going to happen. As long as they stay above minus 110 or higher, the over looks like it could take it, especially since this 45.5 started out at minus 110, dropped by a couple. More than likely, they're trying to entice you to go with that over. But what's getting you to not go under is that cost. And they're keeping the cost relatively constant. And when they do that, normally whatever stays the most constant is going to take it, especially in a favorable situation. And the over is getting 62% of that money. So let's go to the next one. All right. Cleveland versus Pittsburgh. Sorry about that. All right. Sometimes the cursor don't want to move. All right. Opening money line plus 225, minus 278, 27. Now the opening odds, if y'all see these numbers besides these money lines and things, those are just odds we reduce. And we just apply it to any decode, any parallels we get, we just apply it there. But the opening odds are usually the most telling. Plus 225 for Cleveland, minus 275 for Pittsburgh. And that is at 5.5 points in favor of Cleveland, minus 120 in favor of Cleveland on the spread. But we'll just focus on the money line right now. Let's just focus on the money line. Plus 198 to minus 240, Cleveland to Pittsburgh on Tuesday, October 7th. That went from plus 210 to minus 255 for Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Currently, it is plus 225, minus 275. 99% of the money going with Pittsburgh on both days. Let's see where they are currently. More than likely, it won't be that high, but it may be somewhere near there. Yep, 94% and 90. 90% of the betting, 94% of the money. And their odds continue to increase. Pittsburgh looks decent at home. As long as their odds continue to increase while their money continues to decrease, that is a safe pick. Very safe pick at home. 5.5 points is what Pittsburgh was favored by on Tuesday and Wednesday. Minus 115 costs going with Cleveland on the spread on Tuesday. On Wednesday, minus 112 costs going with the Browns. That is 10% of the money going in favor of Cleveland and 11% of the money going in favor of Cleveland on the spread on Tuesday and Wednesday, respectively. That is now changed to 33% of the money in favor of Cleveland. And let's see what happens with the current spread is at 5.5 costs favoring Pittsburgh. And with Pittsburgh odds going down this significantly, and they are now at minus 120, look out for Pittsburgh across the board, especially since they dropped. They increased so significantly on the money. The Cleveland Browns increased so significantly on the money. Now total over under 38.5 on Tuesday and Wednesday. 72% of the money and 76% of the money in favor of the over. Currently, it is 75% of the money and 61% of the money in favor of the over. By the way, the picks and all that will be filled out on the Patreon. Link is in the description and in the video. Now, let's see where it is currently. 75% of the money. All right, minus 105, minus 108. Currently, it is 38.5, minus 108 going over. And I would challenge that low total. I would actually challenge that low total and go with the under in this one. 38.5, most people are going to bet that over. It may even increase from that 75%, may even approach the 85%. I would challenge that total and go with that under in this one. You got to challenge that total. Now, let's go to the next one. All right, New England versus New Orleans. Minus 162 for New England. New Orleans plus 136. Currently, it is minus 184, plus 154 in favor of New Orleans as a dog at home. Tuesday and Wednesday, moneyline odds minus 210. We are down here minus 210 for New England, plus 176 for New Orleans, minus 194 for New England on Wednesday, plus 162 for New Orleans. 96% of the money in favor of New England and 99% of the money in favor of New England on Tuesday and Wednesday respectively. And let's see where they are now with that minus 184 plus 154. All right, that is 95% in favor of New England and 89% of the betting in favor of New England on the money line, that is. Now, if you see this 95%, they have decreased in the amount of money. They have decreased. So they went from 96 to 99 to 94. And then they went down. They have decreased in their odds movements. Now, the reason why I say New Orleans is a dangerous team in this one is because of the spread. Simply because of the spread. Now, 3.5 points favoring New England on Tuesday and Wednesday. 71 and 73% of the money, respectively. Now, the cost went from minus 115 to minus 110. And currently, they are at minus 105, minus 115, and they open at 3-point favorites, the New England Patriots. Minus 184, the cost has decreased, but the key is it has increased from opening. It has increased from opening. It has gone up to as much as minus 210, negative 210. And that minus 184, let's see, let me scroll down. I believe they're decreasing these odds, minus 184, to entice you to go with New England. But if they even if they encourage you to go with New England, the bookies are still going to make money regardless. This 99% currently is 95%. 9% of the betting. But let's see where these splits are for the spread. 76% and 72%. 72% of the betting. 76% of the money. Okay, the over looks that looks a little different. But if you're going to go with New Orleans on the spread, plus 3.5 points, this 72% and 75% hasn't really changed much from Tuesday. But the odds have increased in cost for New Orleans. With the minus 105s hitting, I mean, they're trying to get you to go with New Orleans by increasing their ML, which is probably what they want to do considering they're getting 95% of the money currently. New England is. But with that minus 105 going with New England, New Orleans looks decent on the spread, which entices me to go with the fact that their odds are increasing and their percentages are remaining consistent on the spread. That gives me an indicator New Orleans could win this game. Now, the over-under, the 45 and 45.5 on Tuesday and Wednesday has turned into 46.5 on Sunday. Opening was at 43.5, so it went up then went back down. Minus 115 cost still for the over. And with them increasing those odds, they're more than likely trying to entice you to go with the under. 65%, 35% turned into 55% of the money, which turned into 65% of the money on Sunday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday, respectively. So, and they increased those odds. So, about that, to more than likely entice you to go with that under. But I would remain strong and go with that over. 65%, they're increasing the amount. Didn't increase the money. But I'm enticed to go with that minus 105 under. But the way they're increasing those odds, I would join the public and go with that over. Join the public and go with that over in this instance. Let's go to the next one. All right. Tennessee versus Vegas. Opening money line. Plus 130 for Tennessee, minus 155 for Vegas. Currently it is plus 180, minus 215, respectively. And movements from Tuesday and Wednesday. Plus 190 to minus 230 on Tuesday. That gives the Raiders 92% of the money. On Wednesday, plus 194 to minus 235. Increased in their respective directions for both teams, 89% of the money in favor of Las Vegas based off that. Now, they're now decreased from minus 230 to minus 235 to now minus 215, negative 215 on the money line. Let's see where the splits are now. That gives Las Vegas 76 and 72%. So they have decreased quite significantly, while their odds have decreased as well. So a lot of people picking Tennessee to win this game more than usual. If they had lost last week, they wouldn't be this high, but Tennessee beat Arizona last week. But with them getting 72% here, look out for Las Vegas on the ML. Only if this has to increase. This minus 215 has to hold or increase, because this plus 180 has increased in money, but it has decreased from its early in the week movement on the money line Tuesday and Wednesday, which is why Tennessee could take this money line. But here's the indicator why Tennessee could take the money line. Currently, they are 4.5 point underdogs, minus 115 cost, minus 105 for Vegas. Now, there were no odds available no splits available for the spread on Tuesday. Now, Wednesday is at 5.5 points, minus 114, going with the Titans. 28% of the money going with the Titans on Wednesday at 72 percentile. Now, with them decreasing those odds at minus 105, which came from minus 106 on Wednesday, odds went from 5.5 to now 4.5. Minus 106 cost, 72% of the money. No odds available, no splits available for Tuesday. All right, that 72% on the spread has turned into 59%. 59% of the money is now in favor of Vegas on the spread, while their cost continues to decrease, which is why I expect Tennessee could take this game. Over under 41.5 Tuesday and Wednesday. 78% of the money on Tuesday going with the over, 72% going with on Wednesday going with the over. 69% currently. Let's see where. Okay, over under minus 110 cost, minus 108 cost on Tuesday and Wednesday respectively. Minus 110 cost even here. Their odds have decreased while the costs have increased while the odds have decreased, indicating the over could take this one. But with it being so low, you really want to challenge that. The public's not too much in favor of over like it was earlier in the week, but their cost has increased, which gives me an indicator that the over could take this one. The over could take this one. Let me scroll down to the next game. Let me feel it go down. All right. Tampa Bay, San Francisco versus Tampa Bay. Opening plus 102 for San Francisco, minus 122 for Tampa Bay, plus 148 currently for San Francisco, minus 178 for Tampa Bay. Now, currently, earlier in the week, that is, Tuesday, Wednesday, 10-7 and 10-8. Plus 132 for the 49ers, minus 156 for Tampa Bay. Plus 130 for the 49ers, minus 154 for Tampa Bay. 50% in favor, 50-50 on Wednesday. 65% of the money in favor of Tampa Bay. That changed significantly while the odds did not change much at all. Now, currently, Tampa Bay is minus 178. Let's see where the splits are now. All right, 76% in favor of Tampa Bay, 71% in favor of Tampa Bay on the money line. That is percentages of betting to money. Currently, it is 71%. Earlier in the week, it was 65, 50. Okay, now, Tampa Bay's odds have increased significantly. Tampa Bay looks decent in this one. Could definitely win this game. Odds are consistent. No real threats or motion of anything. Let's go to the spread. 3.5 point favorites are the Buccaneers. Minus 120 cost going with San Francisco on the spread. Minus 102 going with Tampa Bay on the spread. Opened at 1.5 point favorites. The Buccaneers did at home. Minus 110 cost. Even opening. Currently, the spread is well, earlier in the week that is. It was 3.5. It was 3 points. Excuse me. Minus 115 cost going with San Francisco both days. No spread, splits on the spread were available on Tuesday. So we'll focus on Wednesday. 71% on 10-8 Wednesday. That is 71% of the money. And that gives, hold on, that gives them all right, their odds went up. So it went up by half a point. Cost went up for San Francisco. 71% currently. Let's see where the money is now. Okay, the cost went up while their money went down significantly too. Which is why I say Tampa Bay could win this game while San Francisco gets that spread. Let's go to the over-under. 47.5 on Tuesday and Wednesday. Minus 108 cost to minus 112 cost. 112 cost over to under both days respectively. 61% of the money both days respectively on the over. Currently, it is 69% of the money going with the over. Let's see where it is currently. Is it still 47? Yep, minus 105 over, minus 115 going under. All right. And since those odds increased, as far as the under, I'm leaning toward the over. The cost increased for the under, that is. So I'm leaning toward the over in this one. And join the public and go with that over. Not much motion on these odds for this game. This is probably the game that had the least amount of odds changes and splits changes throughout this week. Throughout this week 6. But let's continue with Cincinnati versus Green Bay. Plus 120 for Cincinnati. Minus 142 in favor of Green Bay. Plus 175 for Cincinnati. Minus 1,200 in favor of Green Bay currently. So, Green Bay is a significant favorite after the opening, that is. 97% of the money in favor of Green Bay. 82% in favor of Green Bay on Tuesday and Wednesday. Let me scroll down. That gives them 51% in favor of Green Bay, 91% of the betting, 51% of the money in favor of Green Bay. Obviously, you're not going to get too many people to bet on Green Bay at minus 1,200. That wouldn't be economically feasible. So, with that being said, Green Bay could still take this game for sure at home. They already lost to Cleveland at home. I don't see them losing to another inferior opponent in the AFC North at home. Now, the spread is at 14.5 points. It was all week. It still is. 60% in favor of Cincinnati. They expect them to cover this spread. Now, people don't expect Green Bay to cover that spread. Now, this is going to either go one of two ways. Green Bay is going to blow them out, or Cincinnati is going to win. It's more than likely not going to be Cincinnati taking this spread. So whoever you pick on the spread, you pick on the money line. Green Bay looks decent at that minus 1,200. They really haven't moved. Plus 750 for Cincinnati. Goodness, hold on. This minus 114 to minus 106. That's the only thing that's minus 114 to minus 106. They're teetering with those odds, 60%, 57%. Okay, either Cincinnati's going to win outright, which means they take the spread and the money line, or Green Bay is going to blow them out. Green Bay is going to cover that spread. Now, with the spread being in favor, cost-wise, in favor of Cincinnati, as it has been all week, and they're not getting a significant amount. See, Green Bay could take this and still get the money on the they're lowering those costs for a reason, to entice you to go with Cincinnati. So I'm looking at Green Bay across the board here. But with these home favorites, goodness, plus 750, it hadn't been much movement at all. With this game, which is dangerous, especially when it's a major home favorite. So I would go with Green Bay in the raw, go with Green Bay across the board, but do a separate parlay with Cincinnati at that plus 750. That could be a huge payday, considering those odds haven't moved. Over under went up by a point from Tuesday to Wednesday, 43.5 to 44.5. That is 30% of the money going in favor of the over on Tuesday, 36% in favor of the over on Wednesday. So people expecting it to go over those amounts. Currently it is 44.5 at minus 110 cost, going with the over. Now let's see where the splits are for that. 73% now in favor of the over, the highest it's ever been, and the cost increased from minus 104 to minus 110. So I think that over would be a safe pick in this one. Let's go to the next game. All right, the night game, Detroit versus Kansas City, plus 130 to minus 155 opening for Kansas City, for Detroit versus Kansas City. Currently Detroit plus 126 on the money line, minus 148 for Kansas City on the money line. And let's see where the movements were on Tuesday and Wednesday. So it was a pick'em game on Tuesday, minus 104 to minus 112. Kansas City gained an advantage, became more of a favorite at minus 138. Currently they're at minus 148. 72% of the money in favor of Detroit, 79% of the money in favor of Detroit on the road at Kansas City. So, and currently it hadn't really changed much at all. Splits wise, Detroit is still favored in this one. So people looking to cash out that Detroit pick in this one, people feel that's going to be an easy pick. More than likely Kansas City will rebound in this game. More than likely Kansas City will rebound, especially since they're losing the faith of the better. A perfect time to upset these bettors. As you can see here, 92% of the money in favor currently for the Lions on the road, 84% in favor of Detroit on the road. Look for Kansas City to bounce back. Look for Kansas City to bounce back in this game. Now, spread went from 1.5 to 2.5 from Tuesday to Wednesday, 88% of the money to 90% of the money in favor of Detroit, respectively, on both days. Currently, Kansas City 2.5 point favorites, minus 105 going Detroit, minus 115 going Kansas City. Look out for Kansas City in this one. Their odds have increased while, let's see, 88%, 90%. What is it now? Okay, yeah, their odds. Okay, notice their splits have decreased. Only 8% of the money going in favor of Kansas City on the spread, down from 12 to 10 to now 8. But their cost has increased on that spread. I would go Kansas City across the board, over under. They've lost the faith of bettors. That's a dangerous thing to do, especially in the NFL. They're going to get you 52.5 points. They're going to get you either this week or next week. Negative 115 going over, minus 110 going over, respectively. 2-point difference from Tuesday to Wednesday. To where it is currently, it has stayed the same from Wednesday. 50.5 to 52.5. All right, 73% of the money on Wednesday, 69% on the over, that is, in favor of the over on Tuesday. And let's scroll down. 74%, 56%, 74%, 56%, 74%. All right, my bad. 74%, the odds have remained relatively consistent. Hold on, let's see where the odds are currently. Okay, minus 110 even. I would go with, people predicting this is going to be pretty high scoring. I would test that public and go with that under in this one. I would go with the under in this one. But with those odds going so high, with the total going so high, and it remaining consistent over 52.5, 73% to 74%, they're really trying to entice you to go with that under. They're really trying to entice you to go with that under. That's what they're really trying to do. And it is enticing, don't get me wrong, because people are betting the over at 74%. But they're trying to push people to go under. As long as this stays over 65, 70 percentile, as long as that stays over that, go with the under. If you start to see the under approach 30, 35, 40%, if it gets there, go with the under in that one. But yeah, this has been NFL Sunday, week 6. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. See you guys on the Patreon. All the picks will be on there. And yes, you guys take care. I may do a little separate thing for the underdog specials as well. But yeah, parlays as well. But look out for that content. But yeah, I'll see you guys. Pray every day. I've been Scott. Join the Patreon. Link is in the description and in the video. You guys take care.